Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations round number 2, driving in the Group 1 cars, a car that I do tend to like, but last time I was at this track in the Group 1 cars I didn't really do that well. Didn't go into this race with much practice, but actually managed to get a very nice, well, an okay qualifying lap that put me in P1. I didn't do a particularly great first sector. There was about half a second in the first sector that I was off. I was 3 tenths off my first lap, and then obviously with the lower fuel I'd expected to be a bit up, but managed to really hook up the middle sector. I think that's where I gained a lot of time on my lap. I think I gained about 6 tenths over my previous lap just on the middle sector, so really hooked the really fast flowing corners up and put myself onto P1 in a reasonably high split lobby. It's not obviously, I don't think these seasons are as competitive as the official season. A lot of people are not bothering with these the off season as it is. They're just obviously concentrating on, a lot of the top drivers obviously concentrating on practice for the World Tour and other stuff, but I think some of them are still doing these events for the off season exhibition, but they're just not as competitive as they were for the official season. I think just under 2,400 points was available for the win in this race, so starting from P1 in a good opportunity to take advantage of it. However, I clicked obviously at the end of the race, I totally forgot to change my tyres to the hard tyres, which was what would have been made sense for this track. Obviously 11 laps is a lot to ask for the, I think it was times 13 tyre wear. I just totally forgot. Obviously did my qualifying lap, sat in the lobby, totally oblivious to the fact that I needed to put the hard tyres on. So I had to think of a way of trying to make this strategy work. I didn't even know this was a standing start, to be fair. When I got into lobby, I didn't really have a clue what was going to happen at the start, because I've never done a standing start in the Group 1 cars, and I did expect it to bog down quite badly once obviously the revs started building up. So I put the traction control to level 1 and was just kind of hoping for the best to see what would happen, as obviously it had no practice at this. You can see starting in P3, Jamie in the newer Audi Le Mans car. I think P2 was Calster, starting in the same car as myself, I think he was in. Looking to obviously try and get good starts. Let's see what happens as the lights go out, and Jamie in P3 gets an incredible start in the other Audi, the newer version. Calster on the right hand side manages to get slightly ahead, but I managed to hold that inside line and chuck it into turn 1 and keep that P2 position. There's some cars running wide through turn 1, but it looks fairly clean in the background. Doesn't look like too much going on. It looks fairly clean for a standing start at quite a tricky track in terms of causing incidents at turn 1, considering we're in these Group 1 cars. Everyone seemed fairly well mannered there and not too bad at all. There was a massive oversteer moment for one of the cars in the background, and a slight bit of contact going through that corner there we saw in the background. There's now Jamie in the lead, pushing a massive lead. He managed to gain over 1 second just from that start alone. So an incredible start in that Audi. Myself just about, at this point, about 1.6, 1.7 seconds back, but managing now to start pegging that gap at about 1.6, 1.7 seconds, and actually starting to close slightly in now. I felt like it, obviously the start gave him the momentum, and now it's just a case of having to just try and get back into that slipstream and see if I could make a move on Jamie at any point. I was pretty sure though how aggressive he went on that opening lap was this opening lap. He must be going on the 2-stop strategy. I felt like that was the only way he could make, he could do that kind of speed, because if he was going to push that hard, the tyres just, I don't think they would have lasted more than what they need to really. I needed to try and make these mediums last for 5 laps was my idea. That's what I thought I'd have to do, because I felt like I didn't know how. I hadn't tried the hard tyres on 7 lap stints. I'd done a 6 lap stint. I wasn't sure if they would have lasted 7 laps, so I felt like the safest way to do this was to try and run the medium for 5 laps. Whether that's going to be the correct way of running this race, we'll see as this race progresses now. And already starting to close back in on Jamie. Got that gap down to under 1.5, I think it's about 1.3, 1.4 seconds now. We'll check that out as we run on board now. It's down to 1.3, 1.4 seconds. As we're approaching, also Jamie picks up a penalty on that opening lap where he pushed really hard on these opening few corners. Must have picked up a penalty, maybe running wide out of the corner we've just gone through, and Calster just outside the slipstream, so managed to break the slipstream to Calster. And it looks like the front runners, are obviously the top 3 are all on the medium tyres. I think myself, Jamie and Calster on the medium tyres, P4 on the hard tyres, and then some other cars in the background, and P5 etc. on the medium tyres also. So personally, the hard tyre was definitely the right choice of tyre to be on. I think if I could go back, I would have 100% put the hard tyre on. but having to try and make these medium tyres work. Thankfully, the Audi that I am in, the 2011 edition, the Le Mans edition, seemed to have very good tyre life compared to the Audi that Jamie is in the lead. I don't know whether it's because he's on a control pad, but he's starting to suffer a little bit with oversteer moments and having real issues with grip. You'll see it coming through some of the corners, but on the power zones, that Audi is so much faster than the 2011 edition. As we go through his right hand corner, you're going to see now he runs slightly wide there and nearly loses the rear of the car, so close, but manages to catch that, and that puts me right back in the slipstream of P1. And now I'm able to put some pressure on and see if I can find a way past this Audi, as he seemed to be really struggling with them tyres, managing to build that gap up to Calster now, and putting a bit of distance to myself. It's around 1 second. He's nearly picking that slipstream up. It's around 1.1 seconds. And then as we go through turn 1, Jamie has a massive moment again, and I have to lift off. I think I actually tapped him there, but there wasn't much I could do. And then again on the exit of the corner, he's not able to get on the power where I need to get on the power, and this then enables Calster to get a lot closer to myself and Jamie, as obviously Jamie's really struggling and starting to hold me up slightly now at this stage. I obviously wanted to get on with this. I wanted to try and push it when the grip was there a bit more than what I'm doing at the moment. Obviously I have to be very careful though, because look at the tyre wear already. We've done 2 laps and the tyres are looking quite worn after just 2 laps, and I've got to do another 3 laps on these tyres, which was the plan. It's going to be interesting to see what Jamie does. I expected him to go for a 2-stop strategy, as his car was just not looking very nice to drive at all when I was behind him. He was getting a lot of understeer, then oversteer, and it just didn't look easy to drive at all. But Calster behind, now very close, picking up a double slipstream, and you're going to see getting closer to myself as I'm getting closer to Jamie. Can I make the move going into this tight hairpin? I decided to back out of that. It was too risky to go for that move there. It would have ended in contact, so decided to back out of that and just stick in the slipstream and see if I can find a way past somewhere else on the lap. I wasn't sure if he would pit or not either way, because of how much he seemed to be struggling with them tyres. I wasn't 100% sure if he would go in the pits on this lap, as it seemed okay on some corners, but then getting on the power, his car seemed really tricky out of other corners. He's getting a nice clean exit on that corner and gaining again on Jamie. And this is going to be interesting. Will he pit on this lap 3 and go for the 2-stop strategy, as it looks like he's going to go off into the pits there. To the left, he goes off down the pit lane, and I'm going to stay out to do another lap. You can see he had the medium tyres on also. And looking back now, you can see the field spread getting a little bit bigger, but there's still fairly large amount of cars quite close together as going through the first few corners. Calster in P2 looks like he's also struggling with a lot of understeering the other Audi going through them corners, and seems to be understeering wide through there, as he's now getting under pressure from the driver with the hard tyres. And this is why the hard tyres was the best option. I think the unfortunate for myself, when Jamie started to struggle, he held me up a bit with them few mistakes, so it cost me about, I think it would have been about half second to a second, which was going to be really important. I really needed to get on with this now. As you can see, sliding the rear of the car out of that corner where I'm really trying to get on the power and just trying to be aggressive but trying to be smooth at the same time, because these tyres are not in the best condition already. They're starting to feel very worn. You can see running a little bit wide through that corner, as Calster has a massive understeer moment going through that corner. You can see having similar issues to myself, but I just about managed to keep it on the track. He makes that just an inch extra probably throttle, and that's what the difference is with these tyres. They felt so understeery in this Audi at this stage with the mediums on, and this is why the hard tyres was probably the best option. Now at this stage, this is lap 4. I think I should have probably pitted on this lap. I really wasn't sure what to do. I decided while I was in the lead, maybe I could hang on to this lead position and hold the driver up on the hard tyres and then go in the pits and try and undercut him. That was the plan, because I wasn't sure whether the hard tyres would go flat out for 7 laps. I really did not know, so decided to stay out with these tyres that are really not performing that great and seeing if I can hold on to this. As P3 and 4, you can see Matty and Calster go in the pits there quite a way behind, about 2-3 seconds behind. This will be interesting to see, have I gone on the right move by staying out, as we ride on board now with P2 following myself. As you can see, I'm really struggling with the understeer, but just trying to keep the car smooth. You can see trying to widen the lines into the apex. You're going to see lifting off early and then really taking a wide line in to try and clip the apex nicely. I actually did that really nice considering the tyre wear that I had, and managing to hold on to this P1 at this stage as we now ride back on board You can see in the top right hand corner on the replay camera, P2 getting really close to myself now with that extra grip that he's got. I'm really starting to struggle with the traction now. You can look at the tyre, look how worn the tyres are on the tyre reader there. They're just totally shot. They've got nothing left in them. I'm struggling to get the power on. I'm struggling with understeer, then oversteer mid-corner. It really was quite hard to drive these medium tyres on the 5th lap. As you see now, the Audi behind me getting a massive boost down the straight and getting in my slipstream. I'm not going to go defensive because I didn't want to start being aggressive to lose time on my in-lap. I couldn't afford to do it. As now getting in the slipstream of P1 and just see if I can hold on now up this straight. You can see the difference in tyres. My tyres are totally gone, but we're going to try and hold on and see if we can go in the pits right behind them, going into this corner now. Massive slipstream obviously behind and going too deep, and look at the fronts, they've just got no grip left. They're just not giving me the grip I need and losing out maybe about another half a second to 7/10 of a second loss on that one corner, which is not great. It was actually nearly a 1 second loss, as down the gap from P3 has dropped from 2.6 2.7 down to 1.3 1.4, so a massive loss of time on the in lap there as we go in the pits with the medium tyres on and swap them now for the hard tyres, get rid of them. You can see obviously IRT Nisman also had the medium tyres on as well on that stint and actually gained massively on me on that final corner where I made a mistake. As we come out the pits now, how close is this going to be? And this is a disaster for me. Coming out the pits, P4, 5, 6 managed to jump me. You can see how much that 5th lap really did lose me. I think I should have definitely pitted on the end of lap 4. The tyres were gone, they were losing me too much time, and now I'm stuck behind P5 that hasn't pitted yet. Matty, who's got fresh tyres on, gets around the outside, and then he just no speed on the apex because the corner P6, and I lose out even more time. You can see Kauster, from being just about 0.3 of a second ahead of me coming out the pits, is now a couple of seconds up the road because I'm now struggling to get past P6, but managed to do him on the inside there with the extra grip I've got. And now I'm going to have to really go aggressive through this fast left hand corner and see if I can just about keep in front of them, which I do. And now this is going to be a real battle to see if I can get myself back up the order, as I've now got to pass Kauster and Matty for position. They have got a lap older tyres, so I now need to concentrate on trying to keep the car smooth. Looking after the tyres, I did know that obviously I'm going to have better tyres now for the rest of the race. Their tyres are going to start going a lot quicker than the tyres that I've got on, because obviously 1 lap extra. This is times 13 tyre wear, I think it was, for this race. It was either times 11 or 13, so that 1 lap extra is like an extra 10 to 13, obviously 13 laps if it was times 13, so it's quite a big difference that it does make, in terms of your tyre wear. But unfortunately for myself, let's have a little look now where P1 is going to come out the pits. You can see he's in the pits now, getting his new set of tyres on. He's going to be able to, obviously, he's going to go probably the hard tyres also and come out the pits. Where is he going to come out the pits? As we go down the start straight, and he just comes out the pits there and he slots himself into P3. You can see Jamie in the lead, obviously, on that 2-stop strategy. Still has to pit another time, but P3 has now got fresh hard tyres on. He's ahead of myself, and that really did not work. The undercut really failed there. You see I lost too much time getting stuck behind the traffic. I think that the outlap was about 3 seconds slower than what it should have been, because I got stuck behind the car that didn't change the tyres, and then I had to take a weird line through turn 1 and 2. So unfortunately for myself, that didn't work out, and that was partly my own fault by making that one error where I ran wide and lost about a second. If I didn't make that one error, I would have probably come out ahead of Kauster and then would have been in the lead, and maybe I would have been able to pull away from this stage because my tyres were in better condition, and obviously clean air, no one in front of me, just would have been able to keep pushing, and I think that would have probably worked. But obviously that one mistake was caused by the fact that I stayed out for that extra lap. I think if I would have pitted at the end of lap 4, I would have been cleanly in the lead. I would have been about 3-4 seconds ahead of Kauster. You'd have seen, when they went in the pits, I think I was 2-3 seconds ahead. So by the time I came out of the pits, if I would have gone in the same time as them, I think at this stage I'd have been about 3 seconds up the road from Kauster. So a bit of an error on terms of strategy, but like I say, without doing practice runs for a race, and with the medium tyres, I really didn't know what to expect. So because I went into the race expecting to just do 2 sets of hard tyres and do one slightly shorter than the other, obviously one 5-lap sim, one 6-lap sim, I didn't know what to expect, and kind of a mistake by myself there in terms of doing that strategy. However, now Jamie's in the pits and now he's obviously out of P1 and down the order. You can see him going all the way down to P7, 8, and he's out the top 10. I don't even know if he's out the top 10 there. So the two-stop strategy, really not a good way to go about this race. It wasn't going to work. Obviously you can put some fast lap times in, but at this point in the race I've still got the fastest lap of the race, and now I need to just try and concentrate on seeing if I can catch up these cars in front. They're going to start wearing their tyres out. Fortunately, P2 is stuck behind Calster at the moment. He's not really putting Calster under much pressure at this point in the race, so I've got to try and see if I can catch up to Matty in P3. He's going to start struggling with the tyres. I think he's in the possibly the other Audi, the newer version, that seems to wear its tyres out a lot quicker than the 2011 edition that myself and Calster are in. So hopefully I can start putting some pressure on P3 and make a move somewhere in the next either this lap or the next lap. As you can see now, it looks like we've got a fairly comfortable gap now to P5, so I can just concentrate now on putting some pressure on P3 and see if I can get past him. Obviously work my way back up into the top 2 places in this race. I think it's going to be really hard to get to P1. Obviously I knew at this stage that P2 was going to probably get past Calster. He's got 2 lap newer tyres on, so this is going to be the stage where he's going to obviously start putting pressure onto Calster, as we're going to look back on myself riding on board with Matty 278 there, as he's going to start struggling with them tyres also. Whereas my tyres, this is one of the reasons why I picked this car. Well, I didn't know about it really, but I asked TRL Manuel Roddy, I think that's how we pronounce it, on Twitter, literally about 45 minutes before I did this race, what is a good car for this race, because I'd only driven the Peugeot and knew that car was going to be terrible with its four-wheel drive. I had no idea what car to go. I would have probably have gone the Porsche, but he suggested this car to me, so I did literally 35 minutes in an online lobby just testing out the tyres, and obviously worked out the hard tyres were quite nice. And that is the only testing I did with this car. Went straight into the race with it, and it was such a nice car to drive. I would recommend this Group 1 car to anyone. Really nice feel. The tyres stay in really good condition, so with this high rate of tyre wear, this is probably one of the better cars to go, I think, that I'm in now. As you can see now, starting to put Matty under a lot of pressure in that P3 position for the final podium position, and getting a nice run through there. Am I going to be able to pick up that slipstream and make a move going into the really strange hairpin that you can get a nice overtaking move if you do it right? You can see picking up a massive slipstream, gonna pull out and go for that move, and actually going side by side and actually get the move done before we go into the braking zone, to manage to get myself back onto the racing line to give myself a good exit from the corner, and now on the power and working my way up to P2, see if I can get myself into the top 2 in this race. As you see, they're battling away. It looks like the driver who was in P2 has managed to overtake Calster for the lead of the race, and obviously he's on them fresher hard tyres, so that was a bit frustrating for myself. Obviously I wanted Calster to try and hold him up if possible, but obviously Calster's tyres are probably feeling a little bit worse for wear now. They've done that extra lap over mine, and obviously an extra 2 laps over P1. So now they also had penalties. P1 and 2 had slight penalties to get rid of. Calster's going to try and get rid of it the same as P1. I see that they're doing that, and I go to try and go around the outside. Looks like Calster kind of just let that position go. I think maybe he knew his tyres were probably in a worse condition, and now I've got to try and put P1 under pressure. However, he's obviously got a set of tyres that are a lap newer than mine, so I've got a lap newer than the cars behind me, but the leader's got a lap newer than mine and 2 laps newer than the cars that are behind me, if that makes sense. So alternative ways of doing this race. It was definitely, I think the best way to do this race would have probably have been the obviously the hard all the way through was probably the most consistent way, but I think I could have made the mediums work if I would have pitted on the end of lap 4, because that lap 5 on the in lap was one of the slowest laps I'd done. It was off pace by quite a large amount, and I think if I wouldn't have done that, I would have been out 3 or 4 seconds further up the road, because I lost out on the in lap, and then I lost out when we came out the pits and I got caught in the traffic. So there's probably about 5 seconds worth of time just lost by doing that, and I don't think I would have lost that over the course of doing the extra lap with the hard tyres. I think maybe about a second slower. So I think the win would have been mine if I would have just gone for the pitted on lap 4, even though I put the mediums on. I think I could have made that strategy work, but I just played it too safe. You can see obviously now I've got a pace advantage over Calster and Matty in P3 and 4, where their tyres are not looking too good. So you can see that in terms of like tyre life, this was probably the right strategy in terms of tyre life. However, because I got caught in that traffic and I didn't do a particularly great in-lap on my 5th lap on the mediums, it cost me too much time. So at least now though, I'm able to put P1 under some pressure. I'm keeping him fairly honest in this last lap of the race. You can see he's not really pulling away, even though he's got the tyres that are a lap newer than mine. So managing to hold on fairly well at this stage, considering obviously the extra lap done on these tyres. And now just trying to keep, I just thought I've got to keep him under pressure all the way to the finish. And I was really trying to push. I was trying my hardest because I really wanted to win in this race. Obviously I knew I had the pace because obviously qualified P1, and I knew the pace was fairly good. And you can see just trying to really hook the corners up on this in lap. Just keep, if he makes one mistake anywhere, at least then I can take advantage, as he has a little moment coming out the exit of that corner. The rear goes a little bit light, you can see, and now you can see the gap developing between myself, P3 and 4. So managing to build up quite a significant lead now. So it's definitely a fight for P1 and 2 in this race, and this has been quite an enjoyable race, even though I put obviously the wrong strategy in terms of totally forgetting to change the tyres, and then probably should have pitted it on lap 4. It's been I really did enjoy this race. This was real fun. I do like the Group 1 cars in general, and what I liked about this was the best cars for the race were not the cars that are not very realistic. So the cars that I was battling with were all proper Le Mans cars. They were not like the Peugeot Vision car or the Bugatti car that I don't want to see them cars, you know, when I'm racing. I want it to look like an LMP grid, and that's what I quite liked about this battle at the front. It was really nice to see that there was no, you know, stupid prototype cars that shouldn't really be there. These are all proper race cars, and it was really fun to be in. As you can see, keeping him honest all the way to the final corner, just 1.2 seconds behind P1, managing to match his final lap even though I've got the older tyres on. Give him a little flash to say well done at the end there. Obviously done a great job with probably the better strategy, although I think I would have gone on that strategy if I would have just remembered to swap my tyres at the start. And then I really should have pitted on lap 4 because my tyres were completely done on lap 5. But you can see, obviously, Matty and Kauster obviously struggling with tyres there, dropping back quite a bit there on that final lap. So it does show you that the hard tyres did struggle to do 7 laps. So it would have been up in the air, but I think even then I would have been able to make that work and get the P1. But unfortunately it didn't go well, and a great job by P1 in doing the right strategy and getting that P1. It was a fun race, enjoyed that all the way to the end. A lot of close racing and thoroughly enjoyable. Hope you enjoyed that one. I thoroughly did. And we're going to be back with more GT Sport very soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you have enjoyed it. And obviously as well, I think in this race we picked up about 2,200, just under 2,300 points, I think it was. So quite a nice haul of points for the Nations Championship. That's my first round I did. I didn't bother with the mini round. So hopefully we can pick up another 2 reasonably good rounds in this championship and get myself in the top 3 or 4 in the UK championship. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll be back very soon.